everybody, I'm Ryan, and today we're going to talk about Mardu Greasefang. Now, no longer Abzan, but Mardu, which I like a lot better. Fear of Missing Out and Fable of Mirror Breaker are chef's kiss additions. So let's jump into it and talk about the cards in the deck. So Mardu Greasefang is fully based around putting a vehicle, preferably Parhelion, but Sky Sovereign is fine as well, into the graveyard, and then casting Greasefang and going to combat. Now Greasefang is a 4/3 for 3 that says at the beginning of combat in your turn, return target vehicle card from your graveyard to the battlefield, it gains haste. Return to its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. Now when you do this with Parhelion, which again is the dream, you go to combat, Parhelion returns to the battlefield. Parhelion is flying first strike vigilance. Whenever Parhelion 2 attacks, create 2 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance that are attacking, and conveniently it has crew 4. So in beginning of combat, Parhelion returns to the battlefield. You use Greasefang or something else if you want to man it up, and then attack with Parhelion. It is 13 damage, and the 2 4/4 angels remain on the battlefield, and you get to keep your Greasefang. Parhelion returns to your hand, but that's like totally fine. That's the combo. That's what we're trying to do. You can do the same thing with Sky Sovereign, except it just deals effectively 6 damage to opponent's creatures, because 1 for entering, 1 for the attack, and then it returns to your hand. And then you can replay Sky Sovereign, which is kind of cool. It's more realistic to replay Sky Sovereign than replay Parhelion, but that's what we're trying to do here. So how do we do that? Well, we have a Mardu mid-range shell that just happens to discard a lot of cards to be able to put these Parhelion and Sky Sovereigns into our graveyard. Specifically, we're playing Fear of Missing Out. Fear of Missing Out is a 2-mana 2/3. When it enters, discard a card, then draw a card, so preferably discarding one of these vehicles. And when it attacks for the first time each turn, if there are 4 or more card types among cards in your graveyard, which is pretty easy to do because we have artifacts and enchantments and creatures and instants and sorceries, untap target creature. After this phase, it's an additional combat phase. That is disgusting with Parhelion and Greasefang. So like the nutty nut hand is like turn 1 Thoughtseize or Fatal Push your opponent's creature. Fear of Missing Out, discard Parhelion, mill a bunch of cards with like Overlord or something like that, get Delirium. Greasefang, man up Parhelion, and then take 2 combat phases with Fear of Missing Out. So good. Bloodtithe Harvester is another just really good mid-range card, but also a discard outlet. It is a 2-mana 3/2 and enters, create a blood token where we can pay 1, discard a card, and draw a card, which again, that's what we're attempting to do. And we can sacrifice Bloodtithe Harvester to have a creature get -X until end of turn, where X is twice the number of blood tokens you control, and we can activate only as a sorcery. Just very good by itself, but also it kind of goes along with our plan. Fable of Mirror Breaker is another discard outlet. I'm going to go through Fable of Mirror Breaker, but if you play Pioneer, you know what this does. It's a 3-mana saga. First chapter is create a 2/2 red goblin shaman creature token. Whenever this creature attacks, create a treasure token. Its second chapter is discard up to 2 cards. You draw that many cards. So again, we're discarding. And third chapter is it turns into Reflection of Kiki Jiki, which is a 2/2 where we can pay 1 and tap it to create a token that's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control, except it gains haste, sacrifice at the beginning of the next end step. And that can combo with, Greasefang, with Bloodtithe Harvester, with Fear of Missing Out. We can even copy an Overlord. It's just very, 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 very good. But the big thing here is that this card is good by itself, and it discards cards so that we can get these vehicles into the graveyard, just like all of these cards. Now, the last card that we use to get vehicles into the graveyard is Overlord of the Baelmerk. It is a 5-mana 5/5. When Overlord of the Baelmerk enters or attacks, mill 4 cards. Then you may return a non-avatar creature card or planeswalker card from your graveyard to your hand, which means every creature but itself it can return. So it's a great way to get a Greasefang that had been killed before combat or something like that back to your hand. You can also mill a Greasefang and get it in your hand so that you can cast it. It also puts those great vehicles in the graveyard. It also has Impending for 2 mana, so you can cast it on turn 2, mill 4 cards, return a creature card, right? Any of these to your hand, and it's just excellent. So these are the combos, but again, notice besides this category, all of these cards are just like very good mid-range cards by themselves. So we're in a mid-range shell while we're threatening this really nasty combo. Now to support that mid-range strategy, we're playing Akroxa. Croxa is 2-mana 6/6. When it enters, sacrifice it unless it escaped. And when it enters or attacks, each opponent discards a card. Then each opponent who didn't discard a non-land card this way loses 3 life. And we can escape it for 4 mana and exiling 5 other cards from your graveyard. Just a very good mid-range card if the game goes really long. We're playing 2 Vanishing Verse in the main deck. Exile target monocolored permanent. Vanishing Verse has gained a lot of stock recently. There's a lot of very scary monocolored permanents. Playing 1 Bitter Triumph, just being able to deal with the planeswalker or creature for effectively no cost is awesome. Torch the Tower is just a decent removal spell. being able to deal with small creatures or phoenixes like forever. We're playing 3 Fatal Push in the main deck, just as a 1 mana destroy creature with mana value 2 or less, or mana value 4 or less if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, which is reasonably easy between the treasures and the blood tokens and whatnot. And then 4 Thoughtseize. Obviously, if you're playing a mid-range deck that's playing black, you just have to play these Thoughtseize. 1 mana, target player reveals their hand, you choose a non-land card from it, that player discards that card, and you lose 2 life. As far as the mana base goes, there's not a lot of interesting stuff going on. Playing an Elegant Parlor, and Elegant Parlor is kind of cute because we can, like, if we hit a vehicle off the Surveil, we can put it in the graveyard really easily. Also, Takenuma is actually, like, generally good in the deck. It effectively does a similar thing as Overlord of the Baelmark. We can discard it from our hand to pay 4 mana and mill 3 cards, and return a creature or planeswalker card from a graveyard to our hand. So just another way to get Greasefang back. But it's just Mardu lands. Not a lot of interesting stuff. We want things to enter untapped. As far as our sideboard goes, we're playing 2 portable holes for permanents we care about with mana value 2 or less. An Elish Norn to neuter those decks that have a lot of under the battlefield abilities. So, like, what immediately pops in my head is like Leyline Binding decks. 3 Duress. I don't know why they're different arts. I apologize for that. For combo decks, control decks, anything that is a lot of the decks duressable. We're playing a single Fatal Push just to round out our playset against these decks that we can kill things with Fatal Push. A Braid is, a decent creature kill for 2 mana. Also, destroying artifacts is very powerful. We're finishing out a playset of Vanishing Verse for decks that's good against. Reckoner Bankbuster is against these decks that the game is going to go long, and we need to make sure that our mid-range plan is even better and we can drive in more cards. And we're playing 2 Unlicensed Hearse as our graveyard hate. So there is Mardu Greasefang. If you like this video, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.